how powerful will the Nintendo Switch 2 be? Well, myself and many others think it'll be around the power of the base PS4, and a lot of people think that that's not gonna cut it. So today I want to talk about the power of the Switch 2 and how, if it is around the power of a PS4 or PS4 Pro, that's actually not cause for concern. Let's talk about it. Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and yes, today I want to talk about the power of the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, I think I did a video on this maybe last summer where I talk about how I think the Switch 2 or the Switch successor will be around the power level of the PS4 or somewhere in between the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. Because I think myself and a lot of other people are kind of just assuming the Switch 2, or once again, successor, I'm just calling it Switch 2 for the sake of, convenience. I think a lot of us are expecting that the Switch 2 will be a pretty modest follow-up to the original Switch, and that the main gimmick is still going to be the switching aspect, right? They might do some quirky thing like add a second screen or add a camera to it or bring back Street Pass, whatever it is, a new IR camera functionality, I don't know. But I think the main gimmick of this Switch 2, Switch successor, is still going to be the main switching concept, which means the most interesting aspect of its hardware will likely be how powerful it is. How much of an upgrade over the original Switch is this thing going to be? And for years now, I've been saying that I think the Switch 2 would likely come in somewhere around the specs of the PS4, maybe a little bit better than that, maybe inching closer to the PS4 Pro. But even if it is, let's just say base PS4 specs for the Switch 2, in my opinion, that is perfect. I know that might sound bad, especially considering that the PS4 is now over 10 years old, which makes me feel very old. But you need to understand that the Switch 2, if it is going to continue the switching aspect, which I cannot imagine a scenario in which Nintendo does not have a hybrid device, the Switch 2 is going to be a handheld. And I feel like a lot of people forget that when it comes to the original Switch as well. The Switch is a device that you can hold in your hand. It's smaller than any other device on the market. It's even smaller than the Steam Deck. It has a screen built in. It has internal storage. Like, it is a very compact device, made even more compact with the Switch Lite, and that is likely going to be the same thing going on with the Switch 2. It is going to be a small, compact device. It could be a little bit bigger than the Switch. It could be a little bit smaller. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what Nintendo actually reveals, but the point is, it is a handheld device. I don't know where this mindset came from that the Switch 2 would be anywhere close to as powerful as the PS5. I don't know if you guys have seen the PS5 or Series X recently. Those things are huge. And you need to look at this entire argument from the business perspective, right? Currently, I was looking, the LCD Steam Deck, the one they're phasing out, is $400. And I'm not a tech expert. I'm not, I don't know all these gigaflops and teraflops, right? But that is somewhere around the PS4 or PS4 Pro. I think it's like right in the middle in terms of what it can do, in terms of, it's running Elden Ring, it's running Call of Duty, right? But it's somewhere in between a PS4 and PS4 Pro. It's nowhere near the power level of a PS5. So if that device is priced at $400 and is around the power level of a PS4, PS4 Pro, I think a lot of people are expecting the Switch 2 to be $400. Now, in my personal opinion, that is the exact price it will actually come in at. I don't think it's going to be a penny cheaper or a penny more expensive. I think $400 is the absolute perfect price point for Nintendo's next console, which, by the way, already makes it their most expensive hardware they will have ever released, maybe not counting for inflation for any of their older stuff, but just raw dollar amount, $400, that'll be the most expensive a Nintendo console has ever been. And I think if they go any beyond that, at that point, they're reaching the price point of a PS5, so I don't think they'll do that. They need to keep it at $400 or less. Any more than that, and I think you're getting too close to that $500 price point, and I don't think Nintendo's going to want to do that. And the reason this is relevant is because to make a very powerful handheld, that's going to be a very expensive endeavor, because the tech being that small, that doesn't work like that. You need to have a balance of the price points and the actual hardware itself. As a diehard Nintendo fan, if they released a $1,000 device that is closer to the specs of the PS5, yeah, I would buy it. But that thing isn't going to sell. Consumers are not going to spend $1,000 for a Nintendo Switch 2. Some people will. The diehards like me and you will, but that's not going to sit well on store shelves. But in the past week or so, the reason I'm making this video, there's been a lot of reports, and there was like a Chinese forum that supposedly leaked the Switch 2 specs, and it was around the PS4 in terms of like 8 gigs of RAM, however many flops it had, right? And a lot of people have been talking about how disappointing it is if the Switch 2 actually is around the power level of a PS4. To me, as someone who plays on PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, but primarily PlayStation and Switch, if the Switch 2 is as powerful as the PS4, to me, that's really exciting. A portable PS4, I know it's 10-year-old hardware, I know that. But look at the games that are on PS4. Look, I think of like Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima. You know, these are first-party Sony games, but even third-party stuff like Red Dead Redemption 2, Monster Hunter World, even another first-party example that's more in line with the kind of games Nintendo makes, Ratchet & Clank 2016 is a freaking gorgeous game. Nintendo has been squeezing so much out of so little for so long, really ever since the Wii, right? So look at what they've been able to do with the Switch, which has 4 gigs of RAM, and specs closer resembling the Wii U than anything else on the market. Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Odyssey, like, these might not be the prettiest games you've ever played in terms of, like, you know, the textures are pretty low res and maybe the frame rate's 30 FPS in the case of Zelda, but technically they are very, very impressive games. The fact that Tears of the Kingdom is running on a Switch, which its hardware is pretty much from 2016, that is very impressive. Nintendo knows how to do a lot with very little. So if we're expecting the Switch 2 to be somewhere around the power level of the PS4, which has 8 gigs of RAM, it's more than double. The PS4 is more than double in terms of power compared to the Switch, the base Switch. So just imagine that boost. This will be the biggest power increase, I think, of like any Nintendo console, at least in the modern era, because the GameCube was basically just 2 Wiis, and the Wii U was just a freaking 360, essentially. And then the Switch is a handheld version of that, obviously more powerful, but you get what I'm saying, right? This will be a massive increase in power if it is akin to a PS4 or PS4 Pro, or your Xbox. You know, I gotta include them in this conversation as well, right? If Nintendo releases a handheld that is as powerful as the PS4 with 8 gigs of RAM and all the different technical doodads, and maybe it has DLSS, which the PS4 doesn't have, using NVIDIA's DLSS, I mean, that right there is a huge aspect too. It's going to be as powerful as the PS4, but if they get DLSS on this thing, then that right there is going to allow a lot of things to be upscaled to 4K and seem more natural. And I've seen the argument too that, like, okay, well, if Nintendo's releasing a handheld that's as powerful as the PS4, they're already about to be 2 generations behind because PS6 is only maybe, you know, 5 or 6 years away. The difference there is, and the reason I have issue with that kind of, that thought process, the PS4 is still getting games. I just watched the Xbox Developer Direct, and they showed Visions of Mana in that thing, and that's only coming to Series X and S for Xbox, but that game is coming to PS4. And that was a very beautiful game. But more importantly than that, stuff like Call of Duty is still coming to PlayStation 4, the base console from 2013, and Xbox One. Modern Warfare 3 released in 2023. It's a very good-looking first-person shooter. That released on the PS4. I have no reason to think that Black Ops Gulf War, the rumored game for 2024, I have no reason to think that won't also come to PS4. And if Call of Duty can run on PS4, that means there should be no issue with a game like that running on the Switch 2 if it is as powerful as the PS4. And to me, the idea of being able to play a game that looks as good as Call of Duty on a handheld device is very, very impressive. I'm sure that some developers, some third parties will have to downscale their games maybe a little bit more than they want. Some developers, I mean, a lot of them actually at this point have started moving exclusively over to PS5, but a lot of Japanese developers, which is where Nintendo's focus is, they still are releasing games on PS4. And third parties, I mean, the ones that really, really matter, typically have been releasing on PS4. I think there is a PS4 version of Resident Evil 4 Remake, correct? I mean, well, that game's on iOS. So, I don't know, man. The gap in power at this point, it's just like, yes, the PS5 is substantially better than the PS4, and the Series X is substantially better than the Xbox One. But the actual games we've gotten so far, yeah, they look nicer, man, but I don't know. I don't know if it was like a warranted of like a, I don't know if I can really tell the difference if I see a screenshot of Zero Dawn, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Horizon Forbidden West. Like, yeah, Forbidden West looks better, but like, does it really look that much better? Also funny I mentioned that game considering it's on PS4. Same with God of War Ragnarok. It's just interesting because in the same Twitter threads, in the same videos, in the same arguments I see on forums and stuff, people are praising what the Steam Deck is. And the Steam Deck is really cool. I don't have one, but I've always wanted to get one. That'd be perfect for Final Fantasy XIV. That's what my PS Portal's been for recently. But people always praise the Steam Deck because it's way more powerful than the Switch, and that's true. It's way more powerful than the Switch. It was also way more expensive than the Switch, and even that, at $400 currently, like I said, is in between the power of a PS4 and PS4 Pro. But for some reason, when Nintendo releases that same device in 2024 or 2025, like I think, that's not enough. Granted, at that point, the Steam Deck will be a couple years old, but I don't know. In my opinion, just to summarize and get to the point here, in my opinion, a PS4 power-leveled Switch 2 is pretty much what I expect and what I would ask for. I don't think they need to make it any more powerful. If developers want to get their games running on Switch 2, they're not going to be the best running versions. That's never going to happen. Even if they had it close to PS5 specs in a handheld, that's not going to happen, because no matter what, it's going to be worse than the PS5 and Series X, because it's a damn handheld. Nintendo's messaging with the Switch is weird, because they try to act like it's a home console. Guys, it's a handheld. I don't know if you've touched a Switch recently. It is a portable device. The Switch Lite is like the size of my 2DS. I don't have my Switch Lite here, but it's like the size of this thing. It's a handheld. It is not a home console. No matter how you play it, I don't care if you dock it. The fact of the matter is, the hardware is a handheld form factor. So no matter what, there's always going to be compromise. Third-party games are always going to run worse on Nintendo, as long as Nintendo makes handheld devices. That is just the reality of the situation. However, now that we're at the point where this thing might have the power, it might have 8 gigs of RAM, right? Might have DLSS. That gap is closing. On paper, the PS5 is astronomically better than a PS4. Same thing with Series X. But in terms of scaling games and having them run on lesser hardware, I mean, just like I mentioned, Call of Duty is still on PlayStation. That is a very nice looking game. So if the Switch 2 does that, that is more than enough for me. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, keeping it around $400 at the absolute most is very important. Any more power than that, you're probably going to be pushing $450, $500. And I don't think Nintendo wants to do that. That'd be very weird for Nintendo to go for like a really high cutting edge handheld device. I mean, even just for me, a portable PS4, yeah, the Steam Deck came out, what, 2 or 3 years ago at this point? Nintendo releasing a PS4 portable, basically, that is more than enough for me. So yeah, I just wanted to come on here and talk about this entire Switch 2 power debate that was going on. I'm a little bit late to it. It was really happening early in the week, but I've been moving, as you can see. This is my new setup, kind of still working out the lighting and stuff, so we'll see how all that goes. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below. What do you think of the Switch 2 power debate? How powerful do you think this device should be, and at what price point? That's something that a lot of people leave out of the conversation, is how expensive the device will be. For me, $400 Nintendo device that is as powerful as the PS4, hopefully closer to PS4 Pro. Let me keep that in mind here. That's more than enough for me personally. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch news, reviews, coverage, all of that fun stuff. Another code just came out today. My copy, I don't think is coming on release day, so I guess I'll be playing that whenever it comes, and I'll do a review of that. And I have a couple other topics lined up for next week and some collecting stuff. I don't know if you've noticed, I've been doing Sunday is like a collecting type of video, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday is more of like a more Switch 2 focused stuff or general Nintendo focused topics. So I'm gonna try to keep that schedule going here for the foreseeable future. We should also be getting a Nintendo Direct in maybe 3 weeks or so, so that's really exciting. So stay tuned for all of that, and of course I will have thoughts on everything, any news as it happens. And until next time, folks, peace.